I call the meeting to order. Will everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meeting of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Cedar Grove Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be advertised by having the date, time, and place thereof posted on bulletin boards in the district, published and or transmitted to the Verona Cedar Grove Times and Star Ledger newspapers, tap into online news, filed with the township clerk, and posted on the district's website. Roll call, please.
Mrs. DiChiara.
Here.
Mrs. Miga.
Here.
Mr. Splendoria.
Here.
Mr. Schoner.
Here.
Mrs. Dye.
Here. The meeting is open to the public for comment on items on the agenda. Seeing none. Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good?
Fantastic. We have a nice little crowd.
Yes.
Of course, after the first break, they'll all be gone, but that's okay. It's all good.
So nice to see.
It's nice to have them, even temporarily.
Yes.
All right, so we'll move it along quickly, because I'm sure all these people have homework, and they need to get back to studying and all that stuff that they were doing prior to them getting here.
They don't want to be here.
No, they don't. No, we're the only ones that want to be here.
Yes.
Committee reports. Do we have any?
No.
No? Really? Nobody has anything, huh? Not
No.
even you, Shona? You didn't go anywhere?
Well,
Do anything?
the Brothers Grimm, the Grimm play,
Okay.
which actually was quite great this year. It was something very different. The high school put on the Grimm Spectacular-a-thon or something like that. I forget the extra 4 verbiages on it, but it was really quite good. It was outside the box. It was something completely different. I was even surprised at it, and it was really a lot of fun.
It was
And,
hilarious.
It was totally different
Yeah,
from
it was fantastic.
from what you would
Yeah.
think, and they did a great job, and it was really it was fun. It looked like they were having fun.
Exactly.
Yes, and I was laughing.
Nice.
Yes,
Very nice.
that was it.
All right.
Yes.
All right. We actually have our high school liaison here this evening. How are you, Ms. Catrone?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing great.
We're doing great.
Do you want to give us a report?
Yes, of course. So, as of November and December, on Tuesday, November 19th, 6 junior music students were inducted into the Tri-M Music Honor Society, giving them the title Modern Music Masters. On Wednesday, November 20th, was our Cops vs. Kids No Shave November volleyball competition. We were able to raise $8,265, with all our proceeds going towards the Walton family. The CGHS drama, The Brothers Grimm Spectacular-a-thon, as Mr. Schoner had
yes.
mentioned, had a great turnout
She
on
did say it
November.
much better. Much better.
Had a great turnout on November 23rd and 24th. Incorporating a twist on our everyday fairy tales, it was not only hilarious, but interactive between the actors and audience members as well. The All-School Council hosted a movie night this past Thursday, December 5th, in the auditorium for the elementary and middle schoolers. We showed the Polar Express, and our bake sale raised almost $200, with all proceeds going towards senior scholarships. CGHS is participating in the 2nd annual Deck the Halls competition, which started December 3rd and will be judged by a selected group of teachers on December 20th. The themes are as follows. The freshmen will be doing gingerbread in the upper E wing, sophomores Dr. Seuss/Whoville in the lower B wing, juniors Christmas Around the World in the lower E wing, and the seniors Christmas movie classics in the upper B wing. The CGHS All-School Council is partnering with the Boston Healthcare for the Homeless program for a winter clothing drive. We will be accepting new items such as socks, hats, gloves, mittens, and scarves now until December 23rd. Donation boxes are placed throughout the high school. Tomorrow, Wednesday, December 11th, is our 8th grade orientation at 6 p.m. in the cafeteria. Mr. Mangili and I will be presenting to the parents about the endless opportunities CGHS has to offer. The CGHS Winter Concert will be held on Tuesday, December 17th at 7 p.m. in the auditorium. Our high school choir, band, orchestra, and fundamentals of music class are working hard to prepare and would appreciate your attendance. On Wednesday, December 18th, the high school will be having an assembly for seniors in order to discuss caps and gowns for graduation. And lastly, CGHS is currently in rehearsal and working with the middle and elementary schools in the upcoming production of Peter Pan, the Musical Adventure, which will be held on February 27th, 28th, and 29th in the high school auditorium.
Great.
Thank you.
Yes.
Lots going on.
Yes.
Alrighty then. All right, so we have some presentations. The first one, we're doing them in order, I'm guessing? Okay, fantastic. The first one is we are going to honor the boys soccer team for being the 2019 Super Essex Conference Independence Division champions. So, Mr. Gogarty?
Good evening. For those that are unaware of what we kind of do, after each season, we like to acknowledge and recognize our championship teams during this school year and during each athletic season. And this fall is something special here because we have two teams who are celebrating and accomplished their first ever conference divisional championships in both our boys and girls soccer programs. So it's something special. Soccer has been going on at Cedar Grove for a long time. It's obviously not a new sport, and for these teams to kind of get uncharted waters and accomplish uncharted waters, winning the first ever divisional championships, it's something special, something new to the school, and we're excited to acknowledge both these teams. Before I go into the boys, I just want to say maybe a message to the coaches and to the both the boys and girls, the younger players. I think take this season for what it's worth. I think you learned a lot. I think you learned a lot from the seniors. I think both programs are in a really good place. They're going to be bumped up a division next year. They have the talent. They have some good coaches. They have that pedigree to sustain success. So I don't want them to kind of be nervous being bumped up. I don't want them to kind of learn from what they've been through and kind of take it to the next step and keep it going. So congratulations to both of them. I'm going to start with the boys soccer team who finished 9-0 in the Super Essex Conference Independence Division, to be crowned the Independence Division champs for the first time ever. And they finished the season 12-5, which as far as I know the program and have records looking back, it ties the most wins we've ever had here and also ties the least amount of losses we've ever had here. So an outstanding season to all. I'm going to call them up one by one. Guys, kind of come up here, get your certificate, and stay up here while they're wait. First up, Chris Jarawala. Dan Keeler. Jason Rosen. Massimo Saletta. Simone Saletta. Blaze Benson. Aiden Brawley. Aiden DeSena. Danny Gonzalez. Dan Lay. Sean McGeegan. Jacob Sajak. Joel Boutros. Anthony Palmieri. Max Rodriguez. Evan Schoner. Paul Skavich. Dylan Ferber. And Coach Mike Konopka. Guys, come.
We're going to have to like double up, yeah.
Yeah, take a name. Sit down so you can crush those applesauce.
Did it? Thank you guys. Yay! Thank you, thank you.
Don't leave.
Great season, guys. Great season.
Yeah. Really?
And next, we also have our girls championship soccer team here as well, who finished 8-0 in the Super Essex Conference Colonial Division, crowning them for the first time Colonial Division champions. So congratulations, girls. Next up, Jamie Denty. Caitlin Downs. Gabby Stetil. Lexis Caputo. Olivia Diamato. Casey Denti. Noel Nicosia. Catherine Pachon. Carlene Topolevsky. Erin Burke. Ellie Dye. Sophia Gonzalez. Alexa Mandry. Patience Abad. Ella Brawley. Sophia Diamata. Caitlin Fahey. Ashley Gorio. Megan Wasala. Alyssa Malyuk. Caitlin Wolf. Cecilia Wojcik. And head coach Tom Mugen.
It's funny how different it is. And I want to be right to it. Those girls, they knew.
Did they know what to do?
They did. We're saying the difference. Everybody good?
Yay!
Boys up. Boys.
We're gonna get a group, yeah.
Oh boy. This is
You better get up there. You better get up and wrangle this.
start organizing.
Squeeze in there, guys. Figure it out.
Some of the boys can stand on the side. Right? There we go. Nice job.
Love it.
Nice job. We have not released you yet.
Good job, girls. Great job.
Hugo. Flex.
Absolutely.
Come.
Anything unless you ask around here, right? So as much as I think all of you would love to hear from our auditor with the presentation of the comprehensive annual financial report, I'm going to take a, what'd you say? Oh, should I do? Oh, yeah, you're right, I should. Okay, well, you're not going to hear that part about the auditor. However, it would be nice if you heard about the Black and Gold Club donation, and I apologize to Ms. Rico for forgetting about that, so come on up. And then you'll all be released. Super quick.
Good evening, everybody. First, on behalf of the Black and Gold Club, I would like to congratulate Coach Mugen and Coach Konopka on a fantastic season and all the athletes on their tremendous accomplishment this year. And on behalf of the Black and Gold Club, I would like to present a check to Mr. Gogarty and the Board of Ed to purchase 2 banners, one for each team, to be hung in the gymnasium. And they understand this is the first of both banners. Thank you.
Could he get any closer?
He wants to publish how much that check is. Aw. Very nice.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so now we're going to take a 5-minute break for those of you who want to leave, and I won't feel bad if that really means all of you. So we will convene in about 5 minutes.
We won't take
Thank
it
you.
personally.
Yes, we've been. All right, I'm going to call the meeting back to order.
Yes.
I'm just leaning over.
Okay.
He's getting comfortable.
Wow, this place emptied out, huh?
Yeah, I thought it might.
But that was wonderful.
It was great.
It was nice, absolutely.
That was wonderful.
All right, so it would appear that we're not going to do the annual financial report just yet. We'll get back to it
Oh,
shortly.
that's right.
Okay,
Yes, person shows up. Okay, so we're going to move on.
right through.
From the Office of the Business Administrator and Board Secretary under minutes, can I have a motion for B1 through B5, please?
So moved?
Second.
B1 is a motion to approve the public and executive minutes of November 18th. B2 is a motion to approve the budgetary transfers for the month of November. B3 is a motion to approve the treasurer's report for the month of September. B4 is a motion to approve the board secretary report for the month of September. And B5 is a motion to approve the board secretary's certification to the Cedar Grove Board of Education pursuant to the code. Any discussion?
No.
No.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. DiChiara.
Yes.
Mrs. Miga.
Yes.
Mr. Splendoria.
Yes.
Mr. Shoner.
Yes.
Mrs. Dye.
Yes. Under bills, can I have a motion for B6?
So moved. Second.
B6 is a motion to pay the list of bills that were in our packet this evening. Any discussion?
No.
No.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. DiChiara.
Yes.
Mrs. Miga.
Yes.
Mr. Splendoria.
Yes.
Mr. Shoner.
Yes, but I abstain to check 060230, but yes to everything else.
Mrs. Dye.
Yes. Under business, can I have a motion for B7 through B10?
So moved.
Second.
B7 is a motion to approve the following 2019-20 board goals. I'm actually going to read them because it's kind of important. So every year we come up with board goals, and a few meetings ago, we had our board attorney here, and while we did our ethics training, we also developed board goals. And these are the ones we are approving.
Right.
So, based on our conversation. So, and there are 5. So the first one is under finances. Continue to maintain fiscal responsibility while identifying and pursuing additional revenue sources for the district, including but not limited to options regarding the lease of school facilities, the Cedar Grove.
Oh,
That's in-
Two Cedar Grove.
2 Cedar Grove, right?
Two Cedar.
Right?
No.
From?
That, something got cut off there.
Yeah.
Look at
Was
that.
it CGEA?
I'm just gonna
Okay.
say regarding the lease of school facilities.
Okay.
And just forget the
Yes.
other part I said. Number
Period.
2,
Full
long-range
stop, yes.
strategic planning. Ensure implementation of year 1 of the 2019 to 2022 strategic plan and monitor the benchmarks established by the long-range strategic plan for the 1920 school year to ensure that they are being met. Number 3, technology. Introduce and monitor the one-to-one Chromebook initiatives in grades 5 through 12. Direct PD resources towards the growth of one-to-one instructional applications in the classroom. And explore and evaluate the next steps regarding additional course offerings related to STEM. Under communication, maintain open discourse with the Cedar Grove Town Council, evaluate the efficacy of this communication, and ensure that the subcommittee convenes to discuss salient matters. Continue to facilitate communication with community stakeholders through the use of social media, monthly newsletters, emails, e-blasts, coffee talks, swift reach, public meetings, and appearances. And then under policy, implement and maintain a system to ensure that policies and regulations are updated on a regular basis, including but not limited to regular policy committee meetings and the relevant dissemination of information related to policy change. Now, some of these may sound familiar because in general, these are the 5 core things we tend to focus our goals on, and we tweak them a little bit, but in general, these are the 5 things that we continue to work towards. B8 is a motion to retroactively approve the location agreement with Kayla Lewis and the Cedar Grove Board of Education for a film shoot. B9 is a motion to accept the Cedar Grove Board of Education comprehensive annual financial report as of June 30th. Now, let me ask you a question since we haven't heard it
Yes.
yet. Can we really be approving this one?
Yeah, maybe we should wait until.
All right, so
So
I'm
we're
not
gonna
gonna
just-
do
Here.
B9, so B8, we're gonna hold off on B9. B10 is a motion to approve the student transportation services for the winter athletic season. And that's the next few pages. Any discussion?
No.
No.
So we're gonna approve, we're voting on B7, B8, and B10.
Correct. Yes.
Right. He'll be here.
Roll call, please, sorry.
Mrs. DiChiara,
Yes.
Mrs. Miga,
Yes.
Mr. Splendoria,
Yes.
Mr. Shoner,
Yes.
Mrs. Dai.
Yes. Let's see, what's the matter?
No, we're going, okay, yeah, got it.
From the Office of the Superintendent of Schools, under Personnel, can I have a motion for S1 through, there's a lot, S19?
So moved.
Second?
S1 is a motion to approve Jokeldy Hernandez, Southend maternity leave replacement teacher for phys ed. S2 is a motion to retroactively approve Allison Morris, maternity leave replacement teacher, Southend grade 1. S3 is a motion to approve the extended offer of employment for Jennifer Costantini, maternity leave replacement teacher, MMS. S4 is a motion to rescind S29 from the June 18th, 2019 agenda for Brian Dorflower as boys basketball assistant coach. S5 is a motion to approve Arena Shatowski as a makeup consultant for the Brothers Grimm drama performance. S6 is a motion to rescind S14 from the November 18th, 2019 agenda and approve the following paraprofessionals for lunch duty coverage. S7 is a motion to approve the following employees to provide home instruction services at the rate listed. S8 is a motion to approve Deanne Grossman for before-school supplemental instruction for the student listed. S9 is a motion to approve the following employees to assist in supervising our students during the winter concert. S10 is a motion to approve the following as school volunteers. S11 is a motion to reimburse the following school-based volunteers for fingerprinting expenses. S12 is a motion to authorize attendance at the following events. S13 is a motion to approve the following leaves of absence. S14, a motion to retroactively approve Andrew Vanderhorn, CGHS Winter Weight Room Advisor. S15 is a motion to approve the extra class teaching stipend of $6,300 prorated leave for coverage for Ms. Stanford for the following teachers. S16 is a motion to retroactively approve Tom Jones, assistant cheer coach, beyond the regular season. S17 is a motion to approve Lisa Hagel and Megan McLeod as substitute teachers. S18 is a motion to approve Louis Boyan, head varsity boys lacrosse coach. S19 is a motion to approve the termination of on notice of employee number 2503 effective January 9, 2020. Any discussion?
No.
No.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. DiChiara.
Yes.
Mrs. Miga.
Yes.
Mr. Splendoria.
Yes.
Mr. Shoner.
Yes.
Mrs. Dai.
Yes. Under policies, we already went through these, so, okay.
Yes.
Can I have a motion for S20?
So moved?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
Second. We're on it.
S20 is a motion to approve the second reading of the following policy updates and revisions that we reviewed, I believe, in our last meeting. Any discussion?
No.
No.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. DiChiara.
Yes.
Mrs. Miga.
Yes.
Mr. Splendoria.
Yes.
Mr. Shoner.
Yes.
Mrs. Dai.
Yes. Under curriculum, can I have a motion for S21 and S22?
So moved. Second?
S21 is a motion to approve the following curricula for the 1920 school year, and S22 is a motion to approve the following revised curricula for the 1920 school year. Any discussion?
No.
No.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. DiChiara.
Yes.
Mrs. Miga.
Yes.
Mr. Splendoria.
Yes.
Mr. Shoner.
Yes.
Mrs. Dai.
Yes. Under contracts, can I have a motion for S23?
So moved.
Second.
S23 is a motion to approve the tuition contracts in the daily amount listed to receive 2 students from Old Bridge Board of Education for placement in Cedar Grove High School. Any discussion?
No.
Roll call,
No.
please.
Mrs. DiChiara.
Yes.
Mrs. Miga.
Yes.
Mr. Splendoria.
Yes.
Mr. Shoner.
Yes.
Mrs. Dai.
Yes. The meeting is open to the public for comment on items on or off the agenda. They all left. Seeing none, close that portion of the meeting.
What do we do?
We just wait?
Well, we could go back into.
Oh, yes,
Zach,
yes.
look
Yeah,
at
we
me,
could.
see?
Yeah.
And
Give him a call, hopefully.
okay, so we're gonna, announcement of future meetings
Right.
is January 7th, which will be our first meeting of the new year. That's our reorg meeting.
Yes.
That's exciting. North End, 6:30, executive session, 7:30 regular meeting. And we haven't finalized the rest of our meetings yet, which is why that you don't see anything for the second meeting to be determined. All righty. Can I have a motion to adjourn to executive?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. DiChiara.
Yes.
Mrs. Miga.
Yes.
Mr. Splendoria.
Yes.
Mr. Shoner.
Yes.
Mrs. Dai.
Yes, we are adjourning to executive. All right, I call this meeting back to session, and roll call, please.
Mrs. DiChiara.
Yes.
Mrs. Miga.
Yes.
Mr. Splendoria.
Here.
Mr. Shoner.
Here.
Mrs. Dai.
Here, oh boy, you give us a little break and we're a mess.
I'm here.
Are you?
Yes.
Are you sure? Did you tell people you were here?
Yes.
All right, well, we're back in session, and we now have Paul Lurch, who is going to talk to us about, or you're going to present, rather, the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, which is riveting for people like me. And that's not sarcasm, so.
She is riveted by this. She really is.
Exactly.
She really
I like
is.
to hear that we're doing really well, too, so. Yes, please.
Okay, so good evening. Here to present the audit for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2019. Good news is that the Board of Education received an unmodified opinion on its financial statements, including a single audit on the internal controls and compliance with governmental auditing standards and with major programs on the internal controls and compliance as well. So basically, we have 3 opinions that we're presenting today. As I indicated, we have the financial opinion. We have our gas opinion, which is governmental auditing standards requirements. We're dealing with governmental entities. And then the final opinion is determined whether or not you have a state or federal single audit. And a state or federal single audit is determined by the amount of expenditures that you had in a particular year. Generally, any district that expends more than $750,000 in either federal or state is required to have a single audit, and I'll explain what that is. Cedar Grove did not have more than that in federal expenditures. You had $554,000 in expenditures, so we weren't required to have a federal single audit, and that would be under the uniform guidance requirements. But however, on the state side, the state expenditures were $5,988,000. So of course we exceeded the $750,000 plateau, meaning that we had to do the additional auditing under the state OMB or single audit requirements. What that generally means is that once we exceed that $750,000 value, we have to select programs that are considered major programs. and in those major programs have to be audited for specific compliance requirements. And typically, they're going to be allowable costs, unallowable costs, special reports, monitoring, maybe perhaps eligibility on depending upon which grants are tested. But the point is what happens is that we do a financial audit, and then we have certain state compliance items, and now once we get into the single audit, the compliance gets that much more detailed. But having said all of that, as I started out by saying that we have unmodified opinions in all three, meaning that they're clean. And that's a layman's way of saying that they're clean. There's no modification attached to those opinions. So that's terrific news. The board did receive, and the state actually did finally receive the amounts for the post-employment benefits other than pensions. And that held us up last year. It actually held up the state of New Jersey again this year. Last year, those numbers came out in January. We received these in the very beginning of December. And really what this is the second year now under GASB 75, the Governmental Auditing Standards Board, which requires every Board of Education to report post-employment benefits other than pensions. Simply what that means, it means health benefits. So the state of New Jersey, its employees who are employed through the local Board of Educations, as they retire, they receive a pension number, whether or not you're in the public employees or the TPAF side, and they also receive health benefits for life. And so the GASB board wanted to put a value on that, and that value is reported in the financial statements, but only reported in the footnotes. We are not, when I say we, I mean the Board of Education is not responsible to make that payment. It's not our liability. But yet the Governmental Auditing Standards Board determined that for transparency purposes, that they would like to see those numbers being reported in disclosures as well as in some other information. So we finally did get those numbers, and they're big. You know, they changed dramatically. Last year, the OPEB liability was $54 million. So that's just $54 million for Cedar Grove employees, and they do it on a prorated basis. The current year dropped to $45 million. So a dramatic drop. You know, the actuarial guys are going through and they're making changes in their assumptions, and that's how these numbers are changing. Still a very sizable number. Some of the other numbers that we talked about in the past, so that's the health benefit of the OPEB piece. We do report the pension piece. So we have two components. We have public employees who receive a pension, and we are responsible as the Board of Education to make those payments. So we're responsible for that full liability. That liability was $8.5 million. It's $7.3 million. But keep in mind, even though we're reporting the $7 million liability on the pension for the total amount, you're only going to pay the amount that you are required to pay on an annual basis. And that bill is paid every April. So it's not as if we're ever going to have to get put into a position where we're going to have to pay the full $7 million. We're going to pay it as we are billed. And then the final piece is the teacher side, the TPAF pension liability. We're not responsible for that piece. But what's interesting is that the state of New Jersey, and that number is, if I just go back for a second, was $71 million, and it's $70 million in the current year. So we have a $70 million pension liability, which is just, again, just the schools piece, $7 million on the PERS side, and then on top of that, you need to add another $45 million for the OPEB piece. So when you look at the total liabilities, you get a good feeling as to what the total liabilities are that the state's dealing with when you talk about pensions and benefits for retirees. And that's why they have the issues that they have. So having said that, I'd like to talk to the board about the equity in particular. And that is, if you have your report, it's page 75. If not, I'll just verbally explain it. But page 75 out of the larger report goes over the fund equity. And so 75 is just a culmination of your budget. It's the exhibit C1. And so this is the general fund, and it's your schedule of revenues, expenses, changes in fund balance, and it's budget to actual. So as we adopt our budgets, This is really how the budget played out. You know, we had an anticipated revenue, an anticipated expense. What were the actual expenditures and the actual revenues? So if I'm going to look at page 75, for those of you that have it, under the actual column, we can see that at the end of the year, the district had $4,587,217, and that's up from the previous year of $3,666,429. And what makes up that roughly $6 million? And the analysis is right below. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start from the bottom and work my way up. So the total of 4.6 roughly, the first item there is the unassigned fund balance. Unassigned fund balance. Unassigned fund balance is free balance. General rule is that we're allowed to retain 2% of our operating expenses. There are adjustments to those numbers, okay? But that's a general rule. So the $766,396 is your maximum amount that you can retain in free balance. It's funds that you keep aside for a rainy day, okay? If you go back 12 years ago, the number used to be 3 times that. It was 6%. But then we didn't have all these other categories for reservations of equity. So that's the maximum, and that's the maximum you have. So once you exceed that maximum, where does the rest of the money go? We have options where we can put it into various components. So we have designated in subsequent years expense. It simply means that the $17,000 listed is currently being utilized in the budget that we're in, the 19-20 budget, which is balancing the budget as a line item of revenue. And then we have assigned year-end encumbrances of $295,469. That indicates amounts that are reserved or set aside for items which are ordered or not performed by year-end. Prime example would be the contract with our auditing firm. So the Board of Education contracts with the auditing firm. So we have to execute the purchase order. It becomes an encumbrance. It would not be charged to the financials as an accounts payable because we did not perform the work. We're not going to do that until after the year end. So that's why it's a reservation of equity. The next item's coming up under restricted. Capital reserve is the very first one. A very common reserve. Most boards have it. It's nice to see that we're replenishing that number again. Okay. We all know where we came from and where we've been on that particular component. But, you know, that number started out with 940 in the prior year, and then the Board of Education did a resolution in June. And we allocated $400,000 of unspent current year appropriations or current year budget. So it totals $1,340,000, which can be utilized for future capital needs. That's exactly what it's intended for. None of it was designated in the current year, so it's all available. The next item up is the maintenance reserve. So the maintenance reserve is monies that is set aside to maintain the facilities. Very, very, very simple in that sense. The board started out with $352,000. You added $200,000 to it, and now we're sitting with $552,000 at the end in total, but we've designated $282,000 of it to maintain the facilities. Designation, again, simply means that this financial statement ended at June 30, 2019. When we get into the next fiscal year, which is 19-20, that money's being utilized. And then the last component, once you go through all these other buckets and you see if there is any money that's left above and beyond that, that would drop into the excess surplus category. So excess surplus designated, as I've been indicating to you, so when I sat here last year, the district had $804,389 from 2018. Well, now we're into 19, so that becomes now a designated component, and you're balancing that budget in the current year that we're in, the 19-20. But at 2019, the year that we're in, that we're reporting on, the excess surplus was $210,919. Means when you
Right, 810,000.
I'm sorry, 810,919.
The number you said would be a bad number.
What did I say? Did I say 200?
You said 200, yeah. It's okay, as long as it's
See,
not
we're
the number.
paying attention.
Yeah, we are paying attention.
It's a good one, okay. We're where we want to be.
Yes.
And so that excess surplus then is going to be automatically appropriated in the budget you're developing. So you're developing 2021. And so that's going to be a line item of revenue. And the key component here, and this is all by design, so it's not as this is just a miracle, how does this happen, right? That all of a sudden the excess surplus numbers are very similar, because that's the plan. I mean, you want to make sure that when you're going through the budget process that you're able to deal with, or at least not deal with major fluctuations in your line item of revenues. So just think, if I had an excess of $2 million one year, and then the next year it was only $1 million, well, how would we make up that $1 million? And so really you want to keep those somewhat similar in nature, in dollar value at least. And that's what you're doing. So financially, the board is in very good shape. You can see that we're building reserves is what we really want to do again. And again, great shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the smaller report and talk about findings, comments. There are some comments in here. So the smaller report is the auditor's management report on the administrative findings, financial compliance, and performance. Just as an overview, we saw no evidence of fraudulent acts or instances of fraud. So it is a clean management report from that sense, which is key again, a key component. We did have some comments to talk about, and I could flip through and we'll talk about them and just give you an idea of what we have. And I'm just going to get to the page. I think it's page 3 would be the first comment. This report is set up in the format dictated by the state of New Jersey. We have to go through and audit specific components as they are applicable to these categories, and that's what we're reporting on. So as I indicated to you before, we did have some reserve for encumbrances in the general fund financial statements, and they were valid. As what we do is we test the ones that are recorded, and then we also test for unrecorded accounts payable and even unrecorded encumbrances. And we had $2.6 million of encumbrances that were not recorded because they were done right at the very end of the year, and they were part of your referendum on security and safety. And those contracts are all going to be paid out in a year end. They're all going to be paid out in 1920. But once we enter into a contract, once the board approves a contract with a vendor, and you did at the end of June of 2019, we had to record the reservation of equity or the encumbrance. So we recorded the encumbrances in the financial statements. Okay. The next item on the board secretaries deals with a lease, and we're seeing a lot of this, and it's kind of I guess it's becoming more common. Typically, when you think about having a lease, right? A lease typically is transacted, or I shouldn't say typically, but another way of transacting it would be to just enter into directly with the contracting unit. And so I'm going to lease equipment, or I'm going to lease whatever it happens to be directly with the vendor. We're going to come up with a payment structure, and we're going to wind up paying that back. And on an annual basis, we'll put in the budget the lease payments with the interest component. Here, it's a financing sort of kind of lease, the way it's being done, and I'm seeing it all over. And so what's happening is that we're creating now a lease, but there's a financing component or a bank. So we leased the purchase of Chromebooks, but we leased the financing side through American Capital, which you guys did. You went through the RFQ, I believe, process and all of that, which is correct. What happens on the accounting side is that lease transaction has to be recorded. That once we enter into that transaction of the lease, that becomes our asset, if you will. And we have the asset and the liability. And just like any other expenditure in the Board of Education, if the financing company is going to make those purchases of the Chromebook then to the vendor, those transactions have to get recorded in your financial statements. And more importantly, the approval of those payments have to be done at the board level as well. And so we explained that, and we did record it. I mean, it's only $68,000. I've got other Board of Educations that haven't done this in the millions and didn't realize that they had to run the transactions through the financial statements, but you do, and it's just the way the leases are set up. So we've talked to Mike about it. He fully understands it. This is just, again, a kind of a quirky way of recording it, but it is recorded in your financial statement, so we have the total value picked up on the revenue and the appropriation side. So I'm going to flip over to, I'm going to go to page 5. Page 5 deals with food service. And as part of the food service, you know, we do a lot of testing here in the food service. You know, we're testing expenditures, we're testing the revenue component. And what we did find out here is that when we were testing some of the sales at the high school and the middle school, we had done a random 4 picked up, and 2 of those tested the deposit sheets. The deposit worksheet was more than the amount of the register tape for those days. And then, you know, furthermore, we went to go research a little bit more on the deposits, and we found that not all the register tapes were attached to the daily sales transactions. It's not material. They were not a material amount. But, you know, I think it's just something that Mike should look into, because we want to make sure that, for the most part, on a daily basis, whatever money we're collecting that's going through the register tapes are being deposited into the system. And even if we're off by, you know, $5 or $10 or $20 a day, if that, you know, over a period of time, 180 days, it adds up. So, you know, one of the other things we did talk about was putting a POS system in, but I know that is an expensive endeavor, so it is what it is. It's just trying to grab hold of that, and I know Mike's going to have further conversations with the food service company to see what, at least to see what their explanation is, and to be able to come up with a system that's going to allow them to verify that. They should be verifying that on a daily basis. I mean, it's easy enough. Verify the register tapes to what's being deposited in the daily sales sheets. And the last item we have is dealing with student activities. Seems to be a student activity in just about every single audit we do, some kind of comment or not. This one is making its way around, and I don't know why. Again, student activities, we're going to test the appropriateness of expenditures and the support of all of that, and we'll also have to look at the other side of it. So we're going to look at the revenue collection side of it. And what we've been noticing is that it seems to be that when events or trips are being organized and money is being collected, that they're being collected and held over a period of time. Could be 30 days, could be 40 days, until the event happens or the trip occurs. Then at that point, the proceeds then are transferred over and deposited. So the only thing we're pointing out is that we have to safeguard assets, and a practical approach is that, you know, the monies should be turned over twice a week over to the treasurer of the school fund. This way we safeguard the assets. We didn't see any evidence of money missing, but again, I think it's just a common sense kind of rule. Okay? And that's really it. And we just had some suggestions, but which are not big items, but you know, just for Michael to clear his interfunds, go through his old outstanding checks, you know, do that once a year and clean out some of the old stuff. I know we have some issues with some of those that he's got to do a little research on. You know, arbitrage rebate is certainly something that we need to be aware of. I mean, we're not in a positive rebate environment. And really what that means is that if you, since you are borrowing money and we're earning an interest rate, and that's a discounted rate that we pay because we're in a non-tax environment, when we sell bonds, that the IRS prohibits us from earning anything more than what we're actually paying on it. So right now, you know what, you're still in that environment that it's going to be negative rebate. It can flip at some point. You know, we just need to keep an eye on it. The reporting requirements are, believe it or not, it's every 5 years. And what's strange about it is, and I'm just trying to look for something as we talk. What's strange about it is that every 5 years you have a reporting requirement on the rebate, if there is any rebate. But the reporting requirement does not require you to report that there is no rebate. So every 5 years, if you do this analysis, if there is a positive rebate and you owe it back to the IRS, there's actually a tax form that has to be filled out, and the money has to be submitted within 60 days. If there isn't any liability, there's nothing to do. There's no reporting at all. So just on some of your interest rates, just to give you a feel for it, you know, we have a bond out there, a 2012 and a 2016 bond that's earning probably somewhere around 2%. And I'm looking at the coupon rate here, but the net interest cost is going to be off a little bit. So think about it. I mean, the environment we're in now, Michael, you're probably earning what, like 1.25? You know, something like that. So we just have to be careful, because once that flips over a little bit, then we're going to start having positive rebate. if we didn't spend the money. Once you spent the money on all the projects, then we have nothing to worry about. So, anyway, long story short. I don't know if there's any questions at all.
Anybody have any questions?
I'm just, my notes. I did.
No? You
I
good?
think, no, I think I'm good, yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm good, yeah. I don't remember it right.
Thank you. We appreciate it as always.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you
having
very
us.
much. Good night. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Have a happy holidays. So we're gonna go back and we're gonna vote on that one, B9.
B9, right.
Okay. All right, can I have a motion for B9?
So moved.
Second.
B9 is a motion to accept the Cedar Grove Board of Education Comprehensive Annual Financial Report as of June 30th, 2019. Any discussion?
No.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. DiChiara.
Yes.
Ms. Miga.
Yes.
Mr. Splendoria.
Yes.
Mr. Shoner.
Aye.
Mrs. Dai.
Yes. And now I'm gonna adjourn the meeting again.
Yeah.
Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. DiChiara.
Yes.
Mrs. Miga.
Yes.
Mr. Splendoria.
Yes.
Mr. Shoner.
Aye.
Mrs. Dai.
Yes. All right, now we're done. All right, hope everybody has a good evening and a happy holidays. And it'll unfortunately be January 7th before we
We're
know
going
it.
back in there, you mean the crowd?
Well, yeah, that's what
Okay,
I
yes.
mean. Absolutely. Have a good night, everyone.